Hello and welcome to the It Doesn't Hold Up podcast. We review and reevaluate all things we remember fondly from our childhood and years prior to see if they still hold up. And more often than not, they probably don't. I'm Stuart Shepherd, along with my co-host and good friend Michael Smith. Smith, how are you doing?
Well, Stu, I have the power.
You have the power of what exactly?
Apparently so, yes. The power to have to take heartburn medicine every single morning.
Yeah. It's a daily inconvenience. I feel for you.
Getting old.
We are indeed getting old, and that's why we review stuff from our childhood just to prove how old we really are. But before we get on to this week's nomination, just want to talk about last week's feedback and episode and whatever else. So, for some reason, you chose that old childhood classic Hollow Man, and we
If
covered
I
it
can,
in depth.
if I can just say, if anyone has subsequently gone out and watched Hollow Man, I deeply apologise. And if you would like to invoice me for the cost of any physical media you may have purchased, please do.
Well, let's hope it was only 149, which is like what you paid for it, and people subsequently threw it away. But yes, please do direct all of your PayPal requests and checks to one Michael Smith. So I don't know what the feedback you got, but what I got was people enjoyed our episode. They enjoyed us discussing it, but they either have completely forgotten this film existed, they've seen it, couldn't remember a single thing about it, and even our recap told us nothing, or they enjoyed our episode and have got absolutely no desire to watch it whatsoever.
I think that speaks to the testament of humanity that people have forgotten this film, and long may it continue.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, I guess we're going to say no more about Hollow Man, and I'm going to try and forget it. So maybe we'll revisit it in another 20 years or so, or maybe not.
Let's not.
Let's
No,
not.
let's not. Let's
Let's
not.
not.
No.
Let's bury it. Bury it in a shallow grave. Right. So this week we're going to discuss something a little bit more wholesome, a bit more family friendly. We're discussing the film from 1987 of Masters of the Universe. So this is the big screen adaptation of the cartoon, but it didn't actually start as a cartoon, which is interesting. It began as a toy range with a subsequent comic book that came with the toys, then evolved into a cartoon. So the toys began in 1982, I believe. Cartoon was then launched in 1983. And then by 1987, they had a big screen adaptation, which is a bit interesting because He-Man had kind of seemed to dip by this point. The interest had kind of started to wane. But for whatever reason, Canon Pictures had decided to make a big screen He-Man adaptation. And before we get into going into our detailed scene by scene synopsis, I believe, Smith, you have some scene setting from the year 1987.
Scene setting for the year 1987. So this film was released on December 26th, 1997 in the UK, Boxing Day. Currently at number one in the UK singles charts at that point was Always on My Mind by the Pet Shop Boys, that Christmas classic.
What a tune.
Oh, what a tune. What a tune, but, not really appropriate for the time of year. Top film of the year, 1987, was Three Men and a Baby.
Good
In
film.
fact, if
Maybe
you
we
look at
should
the
cover that. Maybe we should cover
Well,
that.
perhaps we should. If you look at the top five in general, it gives you a sense of what the mood was in the world at this point. This is the global top five: Three Men and a Baby, Fatal Attraction, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Good Morning Vietnam, and Moonstruck.
Interesting. Also, wasn't
Lower down,
RoboCop 1987 as well?
RoboCop was 1987. So RoboCop, to give you some context of some more genre and topic specific films that came out in 1987, you had RoboCop, Predator, The Untouchables, The Living Daylights, Princess Bride, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, and
Agreed.
the stone cold classic Jaws 4: The Revenge.
It was quite a high caliber of films until you dropped that old classic in. But yes,
Well,
absolutely.
absolutely. Also in 1987, to give you a sense of where we were as a world, The Simpsons debuted on the Tracy Ullman Show.
Mhm.
Rick Astley released Never Gonna Give You Up, and Michael Fish wildly underprepared the UK for a storm that rolled in and killed 23 people, which I
Did the
did not realise.
I didn't realise
No,
that. I
I
just thought
looked
it.
this up. 23 people died. Yeah,
Wow, I
but on
just
the
thought.
plus side, in the US, Prozac was approved as a medicine, so everyone can go into 1988 feeling a little bit more joyful.
Fantastic. I did not know that about Arcane. I know it like ripped up people's roofs and gardens, tore trees. I didn't realize it killed 23 people. Very tragic.
No,
There
very tragic.
there you go. So it looked like there was a lot of stuff happening in 1987 and yeah, some pretty decent films and I would argue decent music as well. But
Yeah,
there you
pretty
go.
decent films. We'll decide whether or not this was one of them by the end.
Yes, we shall. Well, so it is no surprise whatsoever that I'm a huge fan of He-Man, and that's why I've chosen it this week. In fact, I'm even wearing my He-Man t-shirt. Not the Dolph Lundgren one, the cartoon t-shirt, but there you go. So, as always, we will do a how old were we when we saw this and where were we and that sort of thing. So, I'll start with you, Smith. Where were you when you first came across this? Did you, since it's cinema, was it a video rental? Was it randomly on TV? How did you come across it?
Well, in 1987, I was two. So chances of me seeing it at the cinema are pretty slim. Now, as I
Mhm.
recall, a friend of mine who lived down the street had this on VHS. And that is where I first saw it. This is a random film that I've never owned in any sense in physical media. And actually, as I noticed in preparation for this, it's exceptionally hard to find on
Mhm.
physical media. You can't get it on DVD or Blu-ray in this country. I know I tried. I had to watch it on Amazon Prime.
Wow.
Um, you might be able to pick up a secondhand VHS copy, but I'm not spending 15, 20 quid on it. So I would have watched it around his house. I probably watched it 3 or 4 times. I've never, there was a large period of my life where I hadn't seen it for a very, very long time. Um, Watching it again now, and I'll just say that I've conflated parts of this film with other films. It might become obvious which films those are as we get to certain characters that appear later in the film. But yeah, so that's my kind of potted history with it. Not extensive, and but certainly something I remember quite fondly from my childhood. How about you?
Yeah, it's the same. I would have been too young to see it at the cinema. In fact, I think the first big film I ever saw at the cinema was Ghostbusters 2, and that was in 1989. So don't we never owned it on video either. I think I probably saw it for the first time like on TV because for some reason it always used to be on ITV on like Saturday afternoons or like early evening or that sort of thing. It was always, always, always on. And I probably watched it around about the same time I started watching the cartoons. So I started watching the cartoons in the late 80s and the 90s because they were on repeat for years and years and years and years. And my grandparents used to babysit me and my brother quite a bit. And the only thing that kept us quiet was He-Man. So my grandparents would tape hours upon hours upon hours of episodes of He-Man and they would sit us in front of the TV and would watch it. But, we'd only want to watch the same 5 episodes again and again and again. Didn't matter they had like 50 hours worth of He-Man. We only watched the first 5 episodes. So no, I watched it probably on TV, and then subsequently over the years watched it again and again and again, and then like you for a long, 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 long time just didn't watch it, and then yeah, I suddenly had an urge. You know what? I really want to go back and watch Masters of the Universe because I really do hope one day they do a proper reboot that is actually set entirely on Eternia. But we will come to that later.
Yes, we will come to that later.
So there we have it. So that's how old we were, and that's where we were when we saw it. So cool. So we're going to do our usual spot, which is going to take up the bulk of the episode, which is us recalling everything that happened in the film. And as always, Smith, please keep me on the straight and narrow if I miss anything out or, forget something,
Oh, I'll
very
try. I'll
important.
try. There isn't a lot of plot to remember, so I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine tracking it through. I think one thing that is worth saying before we start, and it's kind of the logo that first comes up when I started watching this was that of Canon Films. Now, Canon Films have a special place in my heart, and we do not have time to go into the history of Canon Films here, nor do I want to. But what I would recommend is if anybody is interesting, there's a film documentary called Electric Boogaloo, the wild, untold story of Canon Films. It runs
Mm.
through their entire filmography from beginning to end, and it is absolutely fantastic. So I would strongly recommend that anyone's got an interest in So Bad They're Good movies, go check that out. Or
I
in the
would
case
be
of their film
intrigued.
Runaway Train, So Good They're Good movies.
Okay, fine. Yes, I will be checking that out because the canon movies that come to my mind are Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and pretty much anything with Chuck Norris in it. And this.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
That's true. That was shit as well.
Awful. Yeah, terrible film.
Really, really bad. I don't know why people consider it like, oh, it's his classic, it's his satire, it's funny. It's
No,
like, no, it's just a heap of shit. It's really bad.
no, it's not good. Life Force is good. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Life Force. Directed
We
by Toby
digress.
Hooper.
No,
Anyway, yes, that's yeah.
we digress. Right,
We digress.
back to Masters of the Universe. So we open, as you said, with a canon logo, and then we get a nice drawing of Castle Grayskull. Not a set.
Nice. It's a nice drawing.
It's a nice drawing. It doesn't quite look
Lovely.
like Castle Grayskull from the cartoon, but it's not bad. And then we're basically told that this is at the center of the universe. The sorceress guards it, and whoever is in control of Castle Grayskull basically is the master of the universe. Then cut to very Superman-looking graphics and music. In fact, I
Yeah.
watched it to my wife, and the first thing she said was, "Are we watching Superman?" Like, no, no, we're not. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, the first thing I thought when that title music came up, I was like, they have this is as close to copyright infringement as they could get without stepping over. And it's conducted by Bill Conti,
Yeah,
who
of Rocky fame.
did
Yeah.
The Rocky theme. Yeah, so he's a composer of some renown who just I don't know couldn't be asked.
No, and we're going to talk about it at length. This film borderlines being a Star Wars parody. It's
I mean, when I saw Castle's Grayskull, the matte painting, the lovely matte painting of Castle Grayskull first turn up, it very much had a big whiff of someone's seen He-Man, but has also seen Star Wars. and
Yeah.
has decided to meld those things together. And it's
Hmm.
not the first time that will come up during
No.
this.
Yeah, multiple notes are here of comparisons to Star Wars. In fact, I think I twinned this film with being like Star Wars meets like Flash Gordon meets Back to the Future meets a John Hughes movie.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah,
That's
that's a pretty fair assumption.
pretty fair. So once we get through our Superman credits, we then cut to Castle Grayskull, which seems to resemble the Death Star. And then
Mhm.
we get our first shot of Skeletor walking through, looking suspiciously like Darth Vader. In fact, he even has little lights going up his arm and a chest
He
plate that
does.
seems to resemble Darth Vader's. I'm like, right, okay. Now, Skeletor is the best thing in this film. So I can forgive the fact that he doesn't look like what he does in the cartoon, which is all blue and purple hood and he's absolutely ripped and that sort of thing. So, which is also interesting. Apparently, Frank Langella got into an amazing shape for this, but they didn't want him being all ripped and stuff. They wanted him being like, hooded and cloaked and all that sort of thing.
Frank Langella also considered this one of the roles of his career. He loved doing it. He had a great time playing Skeletor, and he did it for his kids who loved the cartoon. I think this thing when you see Skeletor first turn up, the first thing I thought when I was watching this, and this is kind of on Amazon Prime in relatively high def television, is that the makeup effects really hold up for a lot of this.
Absolutely. Like some people say Skeletor looks like a Halloween mask. Like, no, I don't think it looks too bad, to
He
be honest
can't
with
move
you.
his lips. He can't move his lips that much, but
It's
apart from
forgivable.
that, I mean, yeah, no, apart from that, I think it really holds up. I mean, the one thing that did annoy me about this is when he gets there, is all of the action has taken place off screen. He has conquered Eternia. We don't see any of that.
Yeah,
The
that's my
budget,
biggest
the
gripe.
budget, the budget is not there to show those large scale battle scenes. So what we have is battle already won and the heroes scattered to the winds.
Yeah, I mean, we get little shots of some battles going on in Eternia and that sort of thing, but they're very, very brief. Then most of it either takes place in the Death Star, sorry, Castle Grayskull, or it takes place on Earth. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
Skeletor walks to the front, and you see that the sorceress has been imprisoned, and you're made to believe, yep, he's stormed Castle Grayskull, he's taken control of it, and by the next moonrise, he's going to be the master of the universe. He's going to absorb all of her power and be in control. Then we get a shot when he's basically saying, "People of Eternia, surrender. I'm your new lord, or otherwise you'll be perished." Now, I thought that scene wasn't actually too bad. I thought, "Oh, this is gonna look cheesy as shit." Nope, looked
no,
pretty good.
the hologram effects are really really nice. The kind of I think it's kind of composite shot. It must be what they're doing at the time. The one thing I did think is when people of Eternia, I was just in my head that all four of you, because
Yeah,
there is literally like three guards stood there with their hands on their head, who will still be there come the end of the film
yeah,
with their hands on their heads, listening to Skeletor bang on about something.
yeah. And the other thing is, in the cartoon, Skeletor didn't have stormtroopers. I'm like, who are all these stormtroopers? This is again in Star Wars, but then from what I'm reading, they're supposed to be robots, which is how you can get away with He-Man killing them later on. I'm like, okay, because
Oh,
Mattel were very precious about He-Man's not allowed to kill anyone, but he could kill as
yeah.
many robots as possible.
Well, they were very precious about not killing anybody that was in the cartoon.
Yes, yes, that's why
Um,
later on when Sauron gets killed, that's fine because he wasn't a cartoon toy.
yeah. Um, we only ever see one of the henchmen who isn't one of the named henchmen without a helmet on. So we assume that all the others are robots because there's the guy that's announcing the time until the cosmic key opens the gate. This bald fella that sat in a chair. You only see him for one shot.
Oh
He's
yeah,
the
and he's got
only.
like things that we're wearing now. Hang on,
Yeah, it looks like
those are
Lobot.
Eternia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then Frank Langella's talking with the sorcerer, and Frank Langella's got the best dialogue in this movie. And apparently, he rewrote all of his lines. Like he helped with the script, and you can see it because everyone else has got really cheesy, bland, easy dialogue, or he's got really detailed philosophical stuff. Like it's just really
There
cool.
was there were lines in particular where suddenly they'd stand out as being really good. And it was either him or the sorceress had a couple where you
Yeah.
think that's a really nice line. Like
Yep.
that's someone's actually written that and put some thought and effort into it, but it can't be the
Yep.
guy that wrote the rest of this shit.
No, no, I'm sure it was Frank
Um,
Langella who
yeah.
wrote all of that. Any scene that's in Castle Grayskull, he wrote.
Hmm.
Cool. So yeah, during his broadcast to Eternia, you see He-Man for the first time to rent Dolph Lundgren. Now, for all of Dolph Lundgren's faults that he cannot act in this movie, he looks the part. All right, I'm like, back in 1987, I would have cast him as He-Man because who did you have? A big hulking blonde dude. Not a lot of guys back then. Only one who possibly could have done it was Arnie if you gave him like long blonde hair or something like that. But I can't really think of anyone else who could have done
Yeah,
it.
and he wouldn't have wanted to do it either. No, I think you're right. I think from a look perspective, he looks like He-Man. They went the right route, I think. I mean, as bad as it sounds, of not having him be Prince Adam at any point, because that would have required a lot
Yes.
more acting. And I don't think anybody could carry off the pink and white tunic with a bowl cut without looking completely ridiculous.
Yeah, and even his costume isn't quite how it is in the cartoon. Like he's wearing a cape and all that sort of thing. But it works. It works. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, when the toys were first released and the supporting comic book, there was no Prince Adam. It's just he's He-Man the Barbarian who's defending Eternia.
Mm.
So I'm not too upset about that. It would have had to be a much longer film. And if you're going to have Prince Adam of Eternia, you've got to have Randor and Marlena is her name. His mum and dad, who are the king and queen of Eternia.
You'd also have to have the cat, the
Cringer.
Battle Cat, Cringer and Battle Cat, and Orko, which you're not getting away with on that budget. Um,
No, no.
well,
But
conversely to Frank Langella, Dolph Lundgren, by all accounts, really hated being in this film. He had a terrible time. He hated wearing the costume. He was always asked him if he could have trousers,
no,
and they
He-Man
were
doesn't wear
turning him
trousers.
down. He-Man wears pants and boots. You are
Yes.
going to look like a wrestler.
Absolutely. But in later years, he has sort of said, "Oh no, I would play it again," and he's quite happy at signing people's merch who've met him, which is nice. But yep, we get He-Man battling off some stormtroopers and whatever else, and then that's when we meet Teela and Man at Arms. Now, Man at Arms looks very much like Man at Arms from the cartoon, apart from he's not
Yep.
wearing orange, but the helmet, the tash, that's all. The fact he's kind of an old dude. It's like, yeah, cool, you look like Man at Arms. Teela looks nothing like Teela, nothing at all. She's just a hot chick from the 80s. That's it.
Chelsea Field, who I know primarily from having married Scott Bakula
Scott Batkiller.
from Quantum Leap.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. There you go. You should have put that in the Smith trivia. But anyway.
Well,
So they say, there's not many of the rebels left. Skeletor's taken control of Castle Grayskull. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And that's when they come across Gwildor. There's, this wolf type dude, I guess, who's in this rope cage thing and all been tied up. And they speak to Gwildor, and he said that Skeletor had taken control of him and he was taking him at Castle Grayskull. He's like, don't worry, you're safe with us. And he's like, let's go to my house and let's talk. The house looks suspiciously like Yoda's house. Don't know if you noticed that.
yeah, I noticed it looks suspiciously like Yoda's house.
It really does. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
And
getting around
also
that.
Billy Barty as Gwildor, his mouth again, not capable of pronouncing some of the sounds that are coming out of it. You can
Yeah,
see his mouth
just
moving behind the mask.
yeah, exactly. No, it doesn't. But then again, yeah, you can't see his mouth moving properly, but the makeup still looks good. And this is kind of thing I had for this movie. Everyone's like, "Oh, it was made on such a shoestring budget. It looks tacky." It's like, no, it doesn't. Some of it does look pretty good, but yeah, the mouth
Well,
doesn't move properly.
I mean, yeah, some of it's they've got a lot of the fighting scenes is done in close up, so they didn't have to hire stunt doubles. So the
I like
reason
the
why you
fighting
get a lot of
scenes.
the stuff where Dolph Lundgren when he first appears and takes out all of those stormtroopers, not stormtroopers, it's all done in close up because they could do it cheaply.
Yeah, when he's doing all the hoo, hoo, hoo with a sword, it's very, very
Yeah.
quick edits. But apparently they shot that scene towards the end and they were like running out of time and money, so that's why they had to do it like that. But yeah, it's fine. I can forgive it. So
Also, when Gwildor gets into his flat and he's like, "Oh, I remember when we didn't have to lock our doors." Like, all right, little boomer.
yeah.
No, you bet you voted for Brexit, didn't you, Gwildor?
God. Oh, and it's worth noting as well. Wildo's supposed to be a substitute for Orko. So we mentioned at the start of this episode that yeah, they've admitted some characters, but I totally get it. How would they have done Orko? Like there was no CGI back then. If they did it as like a puppet and just like blue screened his legs, that would have looked shit. So, and to be honest, I always found Orko a bit of a weird character anyway. The car was like, who is he? What he's some sort of floating wizard? But and also I went back recently and watched a couple of episodes of the cartoon. And there's no origin story apart from the intro. The intro is when you get He-Man's origin story. There's no origin story about how Prince Adam was given this honor of being He-Man. There's no origin story of who Orko is, nothing. The only thing you do get later on in the series, there's a backstory for the sorceress. I was like, and it turns out Teela is actually the sorceress's daughter. And I was like, that's cool. I never knew that. So my research told me that.
Well, there we go.
There we go. But no, totally okay with Orko not being in it. Gwildor's not actually as annoying as I remembered. I was like, okay, you're kind of annoying, but Orko was horrendously annoying in the
Well, they're,
cartoon, so I
they're
was okay
trying
with it.
to make they're trying to make Gwildor the funny sidekick,
Yeah,
and it's harmless enough. I've seen worse. I've seen Jar Jar
absolutely.
Binks.
Oh God, yeah. No, he's not that annoying.
No, he's
Um,
not.
yeah. So in Gwildor's house, he explains that he's a locksmith and he invented the cosmic key. And then this is when he said a woman came to my house and was really interested in all my work and she stole it. That's when like, evil-lyn. Immediately, they don't question anybody else. Like, it's got to be evil-lyn.
Nominative determinism at action there. If you're born as evil-lyn, you don't really have much of a career option other than to become an evil sorceress.
Yeah, not to know how I'm good. Or hey, I'm evil-lyn. I'll come in, evil-lyn. But yeah, so they explain that yeah, evil-lyn stole the key, and that's when they put two and two together. Oh, that's probably how Skeletor got into Castle Grayskull, because obviously they didn't just knock on the door and walk in. So yeah,
Again, we're not going to see any of this. We will be
no,
told all this. We'll be told all of this. We do not have the budget to see this in action.
no, and it's such a shame because some of the concept art of Eternia looked amazing. Apparently, they wanted to film it on like Iceland, and it was going to be shots of Snake Mountain where Skeletor lives. There was going to be the castle where the King and Queen of Eternia live and all that. Nope, none of that. We just got a few fields and people fighting in the background,
You
and you
got
see Castle Grayskull, and that's it.
you got the backlots in California. That's what you got.
Yeah, basically.
You got where they shot Star Trek in the 60s.
Yeah, yeah, essentially. But what can you do? It was a small budget. Yeah, so they're talking, and then Gwildor says, "Well, actually, I've got a prototype key, and it still functions just as well as the real key." And they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Maybe that can get us to the castle, and we can get back in." At this point, stormtroopers start banging on the door because they realise Gwildor's been rescued, and then Gwildor just happens to have a nice little trapdoor corridor taking all the way to Castle Grayskull.
Yeah, so this is a bit. I thought it was quite funny. Where they're like, oh well, let's just start the key and we get into Castle Grayskull. And he's like, oh no, we can't do that. Skeletor will know we're coming, but we can just use these tunnels here just to get into Castle Grayskull in 5 minutes flat. That'll be fine. And off they go.
Like,
But
what
not
sort of
before
security
Gwildor.
does Castle Grayskull have if there are just tunnels going underneath there?
Little chap just wandering in. Not before though. He looks at the camera and goes, well, I don't like adventures. Oh brother. Oh yeah, well, I'll stay here and die then, you little prick. I mean,
Exactly.
just
Exactly. So they all head off and quite easily get into Castle Grayskull.
walks back in.
Walks back in. We're back on the Death Star. And
Yep.
then this is when He-Man goes into the sorceress. She says, "No, I'm sorry, I'm under, Skeletor's spell. Like,
It's
I can't be freed. Only him can free me," type thing.
it's where they get in and go, it's too quiet. Yes, I suspect a trap. Well, let's just waltz in anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just kind of immediately break cover and go to the sorceress. Then, yeah,
Yeah. Then big battle ensues. They're all shooting at everyone, and Skeletor's basically saying, "Look, just surrender. It's going to be a lot easier." And then more and more and more stormtroopers turn up, and it's proving fruitless to fight against these guys.
I sorry, completely forgot. I was going to say that. Oh yeah, that was it. I really enjoyed He-Man's gambit to Skeletor, where he just looks at him and goes, "Let her go."
Oh, his accent's
Uh,
horrendous.
no.
Oh, please.
Yeah, and then no one takes the opportunity, despite the fact that, oh, go on. And then, despite the fact they've all got guns, no one takes the opportunity to just shoot Skeletor, which they could have done at any moment.
I would imagine because he's almost like Darth Vader, he just would have like defected it and all that sort of thing. But yeah, that's my get out. Anyway, so at which point they're like everyone's shooting at him, and then Sorceress is like, "Just get out of here, He-Man. You've got until the moonrise to sort this out. Just go, go, go." At which point,
Lots of
Gwildor,
arbitrary stuff here. Lots of arbitrary, like certain stuff with Skeletor saying, "Oh, I'll get all the powers." Why? How? What? It's never
because
properly explained what's going on.
because if you're in control of Castle Grayskull, you have all the powers of the universe.
When the
Duh.
moon's at its apex, which they say about 20 times.
No, I don't know, Smith. I didn't write the script. In fact,
I'm just saying, there's a lot of waffle in the script.
but you know what's funny? Because when I went back and watched the Toys That Made Us as well as a bit of prep for this, and they said they were just making up shit all the time about He-Man. Like, if you put two keys together, it unlocks the castle and you get all the powers and the secrets and the. They were just making this shit up as they were going along. So it's fine. You can forgive it. You can forgive it. It's fine.
It's for kids. Kids are idiots.
Exactly. And I'm a big idiot. So anyway, so they say, "Gwildor, get us out of here." So he starts ferociously tapping at the cosmic key. It's got that really infectious tune that I can never get out of my head. Yeah.
That's all he does. Every time. Boop, 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 boop. There you go. That'll work. That's it.
And then when it works, it all opens up, which I had that tune in my head for days. So they open up, big force field, whatever. They jump through, forget the key. And just as the stormtroopers are about to get it, suddenly a grapple hook comes through and takes the key with them. And then, whoop, it's all closed up, done. And Skeletor's like, find them, track them. And then
straight into the camera.
Straight into the camera.
He looks straight into the camera. More than once in this film, he does that.
But I still love him. He's still the best thing about this film. I don't think it would have worked without him. Anyway, so the Eternians land next to a chicken and rib shack for some reason. They have a conversation about where are we, and Gwildor's like, "Oh, we could be anywhere. I don't know. I'm just randomly pressing shit on this key."
But for budget constraints, it will be Earth, and it will be modern day Earth.
Yeah, and then let's talk a bit about that because they've already had a budget of what, 17 million or whatever.
22.
22, sorry. But it does still seem like a lot of money for 1987. But I get it because there was no CGI back then. They would have had to build huge, extensive sets to
Mm.
really do this properly justice on Eternia. So it's quite clever how they've done this. That it's a fish out of water story. They're in Earth, and they will come back to Eternia later. So it's okay. I'm not annoyed with it.
I would imagine 22 million probably went primarily on the sets, makeup, and I would imagine the biggest chunk of it probably went to paying the Mattel rights fees
Yeah,
to use the characters and the licenses because that would have been very expensive.
indeed. I mean, some of the special effects as well. I mean, the special effects aren't too bad. They're kind of like early Star Wars movies with lasers flying and that sort of thing.
Some of them are fine, some of them are not fine, and there's one in particular that's not fine, but some of them are perfectly serviceable.
There you go. So, yep, they're on Earth, and they're like, "Oh, for God's sake, Wildor, you need to get us home." It's like, oh, "Okay, I'll get us home." Oh no, where's the key? So, oh dear, they all decide to split up and try and find the key. At which point, we get a comic relief moment where a cow turns up and Gwildor starts talking to it. It's like, do we really need this scene? It's a bit silly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was really stupid.
It was. Then we cut to the said chicken and rib place where Courtney Cox is working, and she starts having a conversation with someone who looks suspiciously like Linda Hamilton from Terminator
Yeah,
1.
yeah. I was going to say that. It's like, oh look, it's Sarah Connor.
Yeah, wearing the same
I mean,
sort of
we're
outfit
in the
she was wearing.
exactly. They got like, well, we've got this red gingham. Does that look like it? No, it doesn't look like anything. Just put it up there. Should we
Yeah,
cast this person who looks suspiciously like Linda Hamilton?
but loads cheaper. Yeah, cool. Let's do that. And then we get a bit of exposition that Courtney Cox is leaving. She's leaving this town. She's going elsewhere. She's breaking up with her boyfriend, and this is her last shift. We don't quite know what sort of tragedy has befell her just yet, but we just know that something bad's happened, and she's off.
I mean,
Uh,
arguably at this point, and I will repeat this at any point where this subplot gets brought up. Why do I give a fuck?
yeah, exactly. We've
Who
paid
cares?
money, or you've watched it on Amazon Prime or whatever. We want to see this film for He-Man and him battling Skeletor. We don't care about all this bloody melodrama between Courtney Cox and her boyfriend and the tragedy we're going to find out a little bit later. But yeah,
She does a terrible, terrible job of splitting up with him as well. I mean, her whole dialogue is how she's leaving and she's splitting up with her boyfriend, and then proceeds to not split up with him.
yeah, and give him a bucket full of chicken and stuff, and they have a chat in the van, listening to "I'm Living in a Cardboard Box."
It's got
Yeah,
a good
that
soundtrack. This film's got a good soundtrack.
does have a good
Got
soundtrack.
some Jimi Hendrix later on as well
Oh, does it? When's the Jimi Hendrix bit in
in
it?
the music store.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Cool. So, yep, she meets Kevin, gives him his bucket of chicken, off they drive. And at this point, Gwildor has spotted some food in a couple's car who are making out. He steals it, eats it with Teela at Man at Arms, and they have this whole hilarity of, "Oh no, this used to be an animal. What a barbaric world! Is everyone on Eternia like a vegetarian? Wait, what?"
So this is what I thought. I was watching that, and Man at Arms is just tucking in, and he's like, never question your stomach when you're hungry, and it's like. Right. So if you're on a planet full of vegetarians, you think eating animals are barbaric. You seem to be quite comfortable. I mean, Man at Arms has seen some dark shit.
Well, I think so. He's been in the battlefields, whatever. He's been
That
hungry.
man's that man's eating people. That's what I took away from this. Is that
Oh,
he has
oh,
cannibalized Eternians on the battle
yeah. When him and He-Man
field.
have been out, there's nothing else to eat. They've just slain a few people and eaten them. There you go.
And what do you think Manny Faces is? They ate his Manny
Uh...
Faces.
there you go. Cool. Then we cut to Courtney Cox and her boyfriend, and they're at her parents' graves because it turns out they died in a plane crash a couple of months earlier. And for all this tragedy, she doesn't want to live here anymore, so she wants to get on a plane and go somewhere else. Parents
Yeah,
have just
makes
died on a
sense.
plane. Yeah, total,
Yeah, yeah. Shows
total
how you deal
sense.
with trauma. I mean, in this scene, Courtney Cox, bless her, she is acting as hard as she can, but she cannot convincingly cry.
No,
Yeah,
whatever.
she's.
But this was her first film because she was in the Bruce Springsteen video before this, but this was
She
her
was,
first feature
which
film.
prepared her for this. It had more emotion than this did. Her boyfriend, by the way, is played by Robert Duncan McNeil, who most people will recognize as Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager.
Indeed.
So he later went on to have quite a good career in Star Trek and then become exceptionally bitter after the fact about being in Star Trek.
Why would you? But there you go. So at this point, after being all boo-hoo-hoo by the graves, they see the cosmic key that just happens to be lying in someone's grave. And then instantly, Kevin's like, "This must be a Japanese synthesizer." Why? What? Why? Why is it a
Because
Japanese
you usually find them lying around in holes in graveyards smoking. I mean, all
Clearly.
I would think is they'd get some radiation poisoning if I touched that fucking thing.
Especially when you press it and it starts emitting lights and doing all this weird shit that you've never ever seen before. But yeah, so that's exactly what he proceeds to do. And I used to get angry every single time, even watching it as a kid and watching now. Every time they press that fucking button, stop pressing the button, right? Because every time they do it, Skeletor's knowing what they're doing. And that's exactly what happens. They play it, and then evil-lyn's like, "Oh, we've got a signal," and Skeletor using Google Maps is like, "Yep," zooms in. Yeah, look, we need to go there. Like something's going on, and henceforth demands that evil-lyn sends all the henchmen, to
But they
Earth to
say that
find them.
it's within a parsec eon.
A parsec eon.
Within a parsec eon, there is a lot of that gibberish in this film. There is a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's within a parsec eon. Oh, we'll be there in one Grimlock." It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
You
and it's even
absolute.
instead of saying a moonrise, there's something about a moonrise, that sort of shit that you just said as
Yeah, the
well.
moon is when the moon is at its apex. Oh yeah,
That's
okay, the
it.
apex
Yeah,
moon. Yeah, the apex moon. Okay, got it. Yeah. Um, and then they zoom in on the house. Is that the bit where they zoom in on? Yeah,
yeah, with using Google Maps. Yeah,
using Google Maps. Yeah, they zoom in on the house. Go, that'll do. It's like, that's pretty fucking accurate. What do you mean that'll
yeah,
do?
exactly.
Yeah, that'll do.
Oh, so then Kevin's like, "Oh yeah, we've got to go to the school because I'm prepping for the school dance night. We can take the synthesizer along and keep pressing it some more when they're there as well." At which point, Evil-lyn has assembled an army of henchmen to go there, which is Blade, Sauron, Karg, and the only one from the cartoons, Beastman. Beastman looked awesome. I was like, yeah, yeah, you look really good.
He looked awesome until he moved. And then he was just like a lad who was in too big a costume waddling around. He looks really stupid whenever he's running.
I liked Beastman. I also like Karg, but Karg was never in the cartoon. I think
I
he's
mean,
kind of meant
Cargo.
to be like Trapjaw because he's got a hook, which sometimes what Trapjaw had on his arm as well.
I think I sort of slightly got Carl confused with Bonnie Tyler, but
Yes, yes, I see the resemblance.
with so turn around, bright eyes.
Oh, but then there's Sauron as well. It's like a lizard thing. Now I remember there was a toy from the toy
I
line, and
had
you
it.
used to press his head using and emit
Yeah.
water. But apparently that's not him. It's just an original toy. Because
Oh
the
no,
other
no.
reason,
I had the Sauron toys. So, as part of the release of this film, they released some action figures from the film, of which Sauron was one. He had it was a green lizard, and he had a helmet that you could take on and off. I think I've still got it somewhere.
okay, all right. So yeah, the reason why they only had Beastman's because Mattel wanted to release some movie related toys, which makes sense. So anyway, they send the henchmen back to Earth to hunt out the key. During this time, yeah, Kevin's messing about with that thing at the school dance or whatever, and then he decides, oh, I'm going to go take it to my mate Charlie at the music store and just leave Courtney Cox there for some reason.
Yeah, despite the fact that this is the day that my girlfriend is flying to another city and is leaving me forever, I'm going to piss off to a music store to speak to my mate Charlie with this synthesizer, leaving her in this very obvious Back to the Future dance rip-off set. And I'll be back in about 10, 15 minutes. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
With
you
the
got your
janitor.
priorities right, Charlie. Well done. Good job. Oh, and then the minute he leaves, cue the henchman, and the bit I couldn't stop laughing, the janitor just comes flying through the door, almost like Superman front ways, and then in come the henchman. Now, I thought this scene was actually pretty good when they're chasing Courtney Cox around, and like, oh shit, like especially Beastman and Carl, because they're scary looking dudes. Carl in particular looks really, really good. I thought Bonnie Tyler.
Yeah, Blade looks terrible.
Yes, he looks like just generic, villain from any sci-fi
Blade looks
action
like
movie.
someone's dad's popped some tin foil on his face and turned up to a fancy dress party as a half-assed villain.
But yeah, they're chasing Courtney Cox around. She's outside going along the chain fence, going, and then suddenly comes across He-Man, and he fights off all the henchmen, gets rid of them. In which case, then Taylor and Man at Arms decide to show up once he's done all the legwork. And
Man at Arms is an old boy, right? It takes him a while to catch up.
true, true. Then Blade and He-Man have a good fight, but ultimately lose, and then the henchmen retreat back to Castle Grayskull. And during this period as well, He-Man's talking to Courtney Cox and saying, "Have you seen the key?" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's with my boyfriend Kevin." He's like, "Oh, he's in grave danger. We need to find him." Like that, and then they need to go. And then this is when the henchmen come back to Castle Grayskull and confront Skeletor, who is not a happy bunny that he has failed him, and proceeds to kill Sauron. Which I was a bit like, "Oh, we barely got to see it. We hardly knew you."
Yeah, yeah. I always thought that was a shame when I was a kid because I thought he was the coolest one.
Yeah, and they didn't even get any speaking lines. In fact, the only ones who do speak is Blade and Karg. But yeah. So in which case,
Yeah,
yeah,
Beastman grumbles a bit. Yeah,
yeah. But apparently he could barely talk because of the shit he had in his mouth, and his teeth were really big, and he was drooling everywhere as well. But I thought the drool added quite well. Oh, that's another thing that I noticed when they're at the Back to the Future dance when they're fighting with Courtney Cox. She throws acid in his face. Or is it just
So I think it
water?
might be bleach. I think it's meant to be bleach,
Okay, might be
but it
bleach.
sort of burns him like acid. I also notice in that scene where they're chasing her around, they all stick together, like in a clump. They don't split up to try and catch her. They all just run around together as a foursome,
Bumbling fools. But I did think that's simply
incapable of
side.
doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Skeletor's real pissed that they didn't manage to do it. And then Evil inside behind go, yeah, yeah, you lot are a disgrace. So he's like, oh yeah, okay, right, fuck it. You go to Earth with them and you go get them. And she's like, but why? He goes, well, you shouldn't have said anything. I was like, that was cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So, and
Um,
Evil-lyn's great in this film. Meg
yeah,
Foster was
Meg
really
Foster
good casting. Really good.
putting in an absolute shift. Her and Frank Langella basically have this movie on their backs and they're just carrying it along. Every time either one of them's on screen, it's infinitely more watchable than anything else that's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, Meg Foster's fantastic in most things that she's in, but she really, really sort of brightens up the screen every time she turns up in this.
Yeah.
She does a lot with just little looks as well. She's not really doesn't have much dialogue to work with, but just the way she sort of glares at people. I
Mm,
mean, she's got those eyes which are not
piercing blue eyes, isn't she?
not contact lenses; they are her actual eyes. Um, so she's kind of almost got that weird hypnotic stare about her.
Indeed. So we cut back to He-Man talking to Courtney Cox, and then suddenly Gwildor turns up in some pink car making the Back to the Future noises for some reason.
they
so,
they do like to rip Back to the Future off in this film.
oh, they really do. And he souped this car up to have some sort of lever which can make him drive around. I don't know what that's all about.
How's he done that? How's he and when and how's he managed any of this in the time that he's had?
He's a locksmith, Smith. So there you go.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, it's this bit of the scene as well is sort of slightly weird dialogue. But for a start, you've got He-Man who's picked Courtney Cox up. I mean, he's covered in grease, so that denim jacket she's wearing is completely ruined.
Yes.
She'll have to. It's not going to wash out that level of grease. And then Tila turns up and says, and he says, "Oh, have you oh, have you had much luck?" And she says, "Not as much as you, apparently." But what is she insinuating? That he
She's
has
not...
somehow drugged and sexually assaulted?
No, look, this ain't Hollow Man, Smith. Stop it. Stop it. Don't ruin my childhood.
He's been on the pole.
Yes, 17-year-old Courtney Cox. Yes, anyway, so Gwildor turns up in Back to the Future car. And I don't know if you've noticed, there's about 3 shots where they keep using the same footage of this pink car just driving along at the same time. I don't know why they felt the need to have 3 shots of the pink car driving along. But yes, so...
Feeling for time. They really needed to get it up to 90 minutes.
It's 106 minutes. They could have just cut the shit out of the car. Anyway, so they drive off in the car. Then we get Kevin has gone to the school, which is near enough burnt down from when the henchmen were there earlier. And this is where we meet Mr. Strickland. Lubick. And Lubick is basically playing the same character that he plays in every single movie. Top Gun, Back to the Future, this, probably some other film he's in, I don't know.
He he is the character, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where I'm conflating it. I conflate this film with Back to the Future when I was a kid because he basically is playing the same character.
Yeah, he's playing every stereotypical 80s authority. Well, someone tell me what the hell's going on around here. And then he says that like 5 times in this film. And yeah, he's a cop with a spectacular long leather jacket. Not quite as cool as no, I think it's better than Kevin Bacon's one from Hollow Man. This one's like long and
oh no, this is better than Kevin Bacon's. No competition. He looks like Shaft. White bald Shaft.
He is awesome.
I aspire to be that man.
I do too. Yes, why not? Do it. Just stop being really angry at people all the time. Keep saying, what the hell is going on around here?
How is that any different than how I act?
That's true.
No.
So instead of having a rational conversation with Kevin about where his girlfriend is and that sort of thing, he starts basically accusing he's got something to do with it. He's like, right, that's it. Come on in. We're going to your girlfriend's house to find out where she is, which I thought was a bit strange. He's like, you arrested me? But no, just get in the car. I was like, surely you should stay here and check out more of this burning school now. But yeah, okay, fine. Then we get to a really weird scene where Courtney Cox phones her own house. I'm like, why would Kevin be there at your house? But I suppose there was no mobile phones or pages back then, so she just had to take a chance that he might be there.
You call the only numbers you can remember.
Yeah, and then Kevin coincidentally happens to be there. But then there's a really weird bit when Kevin starts pretending it's not Courtney Cox on the phone. I'm like, but isn't the whole point you've gone to her house to hope that she's there? I didn't understand that bit at all.
Doesn't make any sense. This is they're trying to tie themselves in knots to get from point A to point B.
Exactly. At which point Strickland's getting very, very suspicious about this key and what it is, and then they have to press it again. Like, oh, for Christ's sake! So now Evil-lyn's henchmen know exactly where to go. And Kevin's still saying, no, it's a Japanese synthesizer. My friend Charlie's already taken a look at it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, we missed that point out. There was a scene earlier where Kevin just went and talked to Charlie about it.
Too much of him and
Completely
Charlie just having
irrelevant.
a chat in a music. So I think
Who
what is
cares?
yeah, who cares? Who cares
Who
about any of
cares?
these characters? Why does it keep happening?
Exactly.
Who are these characters? Who's Lubick? Why do I care about Lubick?
And the fact that, He-Man is the lead character and he's almost a secondary character. He's just got
He's
dialogue
barely
to
in
get
it.
from A to B. And that's it. He's barely in it. Skeletor's barely in it. And Skeletor's the best fucking thing in this film. But yeah, it's all these secondary characters just dominate the action. Anyway, Lubick's getting really annoyed. He's like, no, look, I don't believe you. You've nicked this thing. So he takes the key and goes off to the music store to speak to Charlie. At which point, then the henchmen arrive, beat the absolute shit out of Charlie.
I love the bit where they break in and all he does is he screams like, get out of here at them, throws a rag at them. It's like, what? He's not freaked out by them. He's just like, hey, get out of here, you.
Yeah, Beast Man has come in looking terrified. He's like, what are you doing in here? Get out. And then, also, just before they smashed in, he tidies up by putting a load of Burger King stuff in the sink. I was like, have you heard of a bin?
Yeah.
It cracked me up. So what are you doing, you scumbag?
Also, wasn't Courtney Cox meant to be moving out like that night?
Yeah, there's still
stuff all over the flat, like just tons of it.
Lazy cow. Anyway, but they beat the absolute shit of him. Evil-lyn puts the lasso of truth around his neck, so he has to tell them what's going on, and he tells them everything. Yeah, I found this thing. It's not with me anymore. It's with a cop, and he's gone to Charlie's music store, and off the henchmen go. So there you go. At which point, He-Man, Gwildor, Man-at-Arms, all those guys, they turn up. We have comic relief of Gwildor suddenly dressing up like a human.
Yeah, this is tonally all over the shop.
Oh, completely. Doesn't know what he wants to be.
No, the comedy moments stand out like a sore thumb from beginning to end. Anytime anything funny happens, it's just like, okay. People are trying to kill you.
Okay. Oh, there's one more thing to note. Before the henchmen all went, Karg was going through Courtney Cox's shit for some reason and found a newspaper clipping saying that her parents were dead. It's like, this might prove useful later. Why?
Yeah, a newspaper clipping of her parents being dead that she's just left out on the side.
In case she scrapbook,
in case she needs reminding that her parents are dead, I'll just keep this newspaper article.
Yeah, well, for plot reasons later, it will become important. But anyway,
who were her parents that they would have a newspaper article about them dying in a plane crash?
I don't know, the new shopper, something like that. But anyway, so yeah, and then He-Man, all those guys turn up. They take the lasso of truth off of his neck, and then he's like, "Oh, who are you guys?" Oh, don't worry, they're my friends. Oh, friends, people, weird people you've literally just met. Don't worry. And then they say, "Oh, yeah."
She buys into it all very quickly. She literally, from like second one when he rescues her, she's like, "Okay, this all makes a lot of sense."
Yeah, man with pants and a sword. It's all fine.
Not a giant, half-naked, greased-up Swede has just carried me down an alleyway.
Yeah, with like beast men running after you and all this stuff. But yeah, all fine. So yeah, then they realize, okay, the key is with Strickland and he's at the music store, so they go there and they turn up. Of course, Strickland starts being Strickland, like, what the hell's going on around here? I should take you all in. I should arrest you. Blah 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 blah. And in which case, that's when the stormtroopers turn up and shit starts getting real.
Teela goes to kick Strickland's gun out of his hand and fails miserably to kick it out of his hand. She kicks his hand, and he keeps hold of the gun.
In which case, he probably just would have shot her for doing that.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's an 80s cop. Of course, he's just shooting her.
Of course. But yeah, Evil-lyn has ordered the stormtroopers to go in and get the key. They're desperately saying to Gwildor, look, you need to program that key and get us the hell out of there type thing. And He-Man barely uses his sword, at which point he's shooting and shooting. Yeah.
No one in this can hit anything.
No,
they are
like Star Wars
each other but the good guys are just as bad.
Yeah.
Until they need to for plot reasons, they're just firing aimlessly.
Yeah, firing aimlessly. Then Man-at-Arms, Teela, Strickland, and Courtney Cox go in the back room. They're still ferociously and Gwildor trying to get that key to work. And this bit haunted me when I was a kid because I thought it was so mean. But I was watching it, I was like, this is just stupid. How dumb are you? At this point, suddenly, Courtney Cox's mother is outside. She's not dead after all. She's like, come here. Like
Courtney Cox's mother, who we know is dead, who she knows is dead, she would have had to have identified the bodies.
Absolutely. So she goes outside. She goes, Mother, what are you doing here? She goes, oh, super secret reasons. We had to fake our own deaths. Like, what? So you put your daughter through all that trauma because you were doing super secret shit? I was like, who are you people? Don't you just have like office jobs and stuff?
Yeah, this makes no sense. It's never explained why she'd buy this. Like, it's like if my mum suddenly appeared after faking her own death and went, oh, by the way, I'm doing super secret government work. I'm like, no, you're not. Don't be
And also,
silly.
and also, what you
You
just
work
did
at
was
a
very
cricket
not cool.
ground.
And faking your own death ain't cool.
Yeah, Mum.
Yeah. So anyway, then she's like, you know that thing everyone's been protecting? Can you go get it for me? She's like, yeah, no worries, I'll go get it for you. I'm like, you're so stupid. Like that. So she goes and grabs it. No one really stops her. Then a big force field stops the door from opening.
Gwildor, who's holding a gun,
Yeah, he could have easily shot her in the leg or something.
does nothing to stop her from stealing the cosmic key.
Nothing to stop her. And then gives it to her mum, gives her a hug, and it's evil-lyn. But I did actually like that reveal. She's like, thank you, my darling. I was like, oh, you bitch. Like, and I always found that haunting when I was a kid. Like, oh no, that's so mean.
And then Courtney Cox goes, ah! It's like, you mug.
You proper mug. But like, as a kid, I found that whole, oh, her parents are dead and that bit really, really horrible. But I've been desensitized by all the fucked up shit I've watched over the years. That I'm just
I
like,
found it, even as a child, I remember finding it unnecessary. I remember watching and going, well, sorry, why have I not got Battle Cat? Why have I not got Orko? Why have I got a girl who at this point I had no idea who she was and her dead parents?
there you go.
What has this got to do with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
Nothing. Budget. That's exactly what it's got to do. Budget. So yeah,
You missed the bit where they're shooting at each other in the store, and Teela comes out of the back room and helps them out and shoots a bunch of people and finally slightly competent. And then she just looks at the camera and goes, "Woman at arms." That is not the pun you think it is.
It's kind of funny.
You think you've just told a very funny joke and you haven't. You've just said words.
Well, at least they gave Teela to do something funny. All she seems to do is be happy with Gwildor. They want to kill him at the same time. It's like, oh, you're so good. I'm going to kill you, little worm. But anyway, so Evil-lyn's got the key. She calls Skeletor, says, right, come here. And he's like, oh, what about He-Man? He goes, I haven't got him yet. It's like, right, that's it. I'm coming. Then there's that great battle scene where the stormtroopers are on those floaty things and He-Man's flying around. And
so this is the effect that doesn't hold up at all.
You don't think so?
It looks like someone's just got a cardboard cut out of someone who's going.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay.
It looks terrible.
But you do get that spectacular bit when Skeletor's ship is flying along. It's like, oh, that's so badass. You get all the force field opens, all the stormtroopers are walking along. He's flying along.
Yeah, to the Imperial March.
Yeah, to the Imperial March. Yeah, but he's looking cool as a cucumber. Doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna really fuck shit up in a minute. Then He-Man manages to get the key from Evil-lyn, but it's a trap. They get up on the roof.
And Skeletor very slowly comes up behind them.
But I love that bit.
Silently.
No, I love that bit.
So funny.
It was cool though.
He's just sitting there like that. They're gonna notice in a minute. This is gonna be great. Hold on. Yeah. I'll wait for my entrance. Hold on.
Oh yeah, man. But yeah,
we've been here a while. Come on. Turn around.
Turn around.
Turn around.
Anyway, then he manages to fry the existing key that they've got, so they can't get back. Courtney Cox goes to get it, and he fries her leg and poisons her for some reason.
Somehow poison lightning with his force lightning powers.
Yeah. But yes, and at this point he says, "Right, He-Man, I'll give you a choice. You can come back and be my slave, or you can die with all these people." And he's like, "Okay, fine, I'll go back with them." And Skeletor's like, "Yes, victory is mine," and off they go.
And they're like, "Shall we kill them?" He's like, "No, we need them for plot reasons later."
Nobody says let them rot. Let them rot. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He could have just gone, right, dead, I lied. You know.
All these bits on Earth, it is the quietest city that I have ever seen.
There is
nobody seems to notice.
Nobody.
These stormtroopers and these flying hovercraft over the city.
Apart from Strickland and a couple of cops. They're the only people who've noticed this. But yes, so...
And then Skeletor goes back down again.
But then, yeah, they all fly back into the force field with He-Man. They're back at Castle Grayskull, at which point He-Man's all chained up and being whipped because he's refusing to kneel to Skeletor. Yeah. And at which point
turns into General Zod.
He does turn into General Zod. I also thought by the time he actually turns into the god, he looks like Darkseid and Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
So Sorceress looking really, really old because she's pretty much almost been drained of all of her power. And at which case they're saying back on Earth, shit, Courtney Cox is going to die any minute. Only the sorcerer can help us. Gwildor's like, no, the key is fucked, so we can't get back. At which point Kevin's like, but wait, maybe if I get a keyboard and plug it into the key and play the do, we can get back to Eternia. I'm like, okay, we've come this far, why not? So that's exactly what they do. They loop up a.
Well,
a
They do it
keyboard.
after Kevin for a moment goes, "No, I'm not the guy for this job." And it's like, why are you having this crisis of confidence? And then Man at Arms gives him an inspiring speech where all I could look at is how wet his mouth seemed to be.
Well, yeah,
Man at Arms seems to be dribbling at that point. He's like, "You've got to go for your friends."
he's only had one bit of chicken this whole movie. He's well hungry. But yeah,
um,
yeah, he goes from there must be something we could do. Oh no, I'm not the man for the job. Yes,
I'm
that's
not the
something
man.
we could do.
I also enjoy the bit where he's like, yeah, if I hear a song once or twice, I can generally remember it as like everybody on the planet.
That very
Like
easy tune. Yeah.
anyone with ease, yeah. Like anyone who's heard a song a couple of times can sort of remember it. You're not. He goes, you're a master songsman. It's like,
You
what?
know this. You've been in a record store. Anyway, so he gets in the DeLorean and drives off and comes back with a keyboard. Where he got the keyboard from, I don't know because the music shop was blown up. But yep, comes back
Yeah,
and they plug it in.
yeah. I didn't notice that. Where did he get that from?
Maybe he went back to the. Oh no, the school got blown up.
No,
As
the
well. I
school
don't
got
know.
blown up as well.
He got it from
He's got
somewhere.
keyboards. He's got keyboards all over town.
Yeah, yeah. Down a back alley or something. I don't know. Anyway, so gets the keyboard, plugs it in, at which point Strickland turns up, like, no, nobody move. And he ends up getting transported to Eternia with half the car, a brick wall, basically the set. The set makes its way to Castle Grayskull. And that's when we're at the very last point of the film, where Skeletor has basically got all the power of Grayskull. He's turned into a god, apparently. Shao Kahn,
Again,
dark side,
again,
whatever.
all of this is very wishy-washy. It's never fully explained what's going on. It's never fully explained what the powers are. It's never fully explained how he gets the powers. He just sort of does. It has got, and I was just looking at it, it's got one of the good lines is this bit where the sorcerer says to him, and I'm trying to make sure I get it right, men who crave power look back over the
Yes.
mistakes of their lives, pile them all together and call it destiny. And I was like, that is a hell of a line.
There
Like,
is, and he gives a
that is
wicked one as well. He goes, where are your friends now, He-Man? Tell me about the
yes.
loneliness of good. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil? I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's really,
Yeah, it's
really good dialogue.
Yeah, some really good dialogue in this scene. Slightly ruined by Dolph Lundgren going,
Oh, never nearly you.
"Oh, never, Neil." Oh, that's odd.
Neil.
And then flinching well before he gets whipped.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, every time he whips him, he kind of goes just before it gets him.
Yeah, but it's fine. And then Skeletor gets all powerful, whatever. In which case, everyone's arrived from Earth. There's all distraction as he's doing the laser beams. It manages to free Dolph Lundgren, and then big old fight ensues or whatever.
Shit. He said, "I'm going to kill him." Oh, actually, I've done the opposite of what I meant to do.
I freed him. And then,
and then again, when Dolph Lundgren goes to get the sword out of its holster, it's Skeletor throwing lightning at him that breaks the thing that lets him get it out.
exactly.
Skeletor cannot stop defeating himself.
No. But then we finally get the bit everyone's waiting for, which is like what's on my t-shirt. I have the power. Yes, yes, awesome. But at no point in this movie has He-Man ever got superhuman strength. He's just a tough dude. He-Man, the proper He-Man, could like pick up vehicles and just throw them and stuff like that, massive rocks. Whereas Dolph Lundgren's just a strong dude. But anyway, he gets the sword of power out, gets his power, and says, "Right, that's it, He-Man. Sorry, Skeletor. Let's fight to the death." And they're like, "Okay,
let
fine.
this
This will
be
a
our final battle."
I didn't mind it. It's essentially a lightsaber fight, but that's fine.
Well, so there's a bit about this scene, just a little bit of trivia on this scene, and I'll do it now rather than leave it to the end. They ran out of budget before filming had finished.
I read this too.
And the set had already been started to be taken apart by this point. So they were given, and the director, Gary Goddard, who has no other directing credits to his name, bar amusement park ride videos is the only other thing he seems to have directed. Also, if you Google what he's up to now, nothing good. I'll leave that to your imagination. So he pled for more time. They gave them a little bit more money to finish the fight, but they couldn't use the set because the set had already been half destroyed.
So it's
Skeletor was also originally meant to go through the window. He was meant to go out the window of Castle Grayskull and fall outside Castle Grayskull, but they couldn't because the window was gone by this point, so they had to have him fall down the pit instead.
Like Emperor Palpatine.
Like Emperor Palpatine, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence that they ripped off Star Wars again.
But I'm all right with this fight scene. Like, I'm even okay that it's all dim, and they're fighting. He-Man breaks his staff, which apparently all the power is in. Restores
Never explained. Yep.
Never explained. Restores it back to proper Skeletor. And yeah, as you said, they fight, and then he knocks Skeletor down, like, no! And falls down. And then cut to He-Man has suddenly got upgraded armor, like he's a Mandalorian. The sorceress is all young again.
No idea how long this is after all this
Yeah,
is meant to be taking place.
half an hour, a day, a week, who knows? But it's
Not
enough
it.
time for Strickland to have found a girlfriend and decides that
I
he wants to
know.
stay there on this worn, torn planet. He would rather stay here.
I mean,
It
Eternia looks shit.
looks awful. You only hope old Al Skeletors ain't there. It might get better, but doubt it.
That's again is the bit where Skeletor just before he became the master of the universe, where he was announcing his rise to the rest of Eternia. You get those four guards standing there again with their hats on their head. They've been there the entire film.
24 hours just doing
24
that.
hours just stood there watching holograms of Skeletor say stuff.
Yep.
Or as Gwildor keeps calling him, Skeletor.
Does he? I didn't spot that.
Yeah, he keeps calling him Skeletor.
Oh, well, I'll have to go back and rewatch that. You give me another excuse to watch it. Yep. And then Strickland's going to stay there with his new girlfriend. They're all happy. Sorceress is all nice and young again. And they're like, going to send you back. And Gwildor's like, I can send you back to any point you want. And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. And then Courtney Cox, I can only assume, actually, Gwildor, can you send me back before my parents die? But you don't actually hear that. But I guess you work that out later. She wakes up in her bed wearing her grandmother's nightie, comes running downstairs, and her parents aren't dead. And she's like, oh, my God, it must be like a year before or some shit. And then grabs her dad's plane keys because he was a pilot. I don't remember that being explained. I thought
her dad stands up very confrontational. He goes, "Hey, give me those keys back." It's like, oh God,
good shot.
Yeah, I don't want to see what their home life is like. Maybe better off dead.
Yeah, she runs out of the house. Kevin conveniently has also had the same brainwave and ran over. They meet in the street, and then just before they left Eternia, the sorceress did give them a little gem, and they look into it, and Castle Grayskull, and we see Dolph Lundgren go, "Right on the bar." End of film. Or so they'd have you believe. So then we get credits, and then right at the end, we get a load of pink water. Suddenly, Skeletor pops up and goes, I'll be back. And then it just ends.
Yeah, and it cuts very quickly after he says back.
I'm back.
He goes, I'll be back.
But he was never back. 36
No,
years I've
won't.
waited for that goddamn sequel. So there we go.
The ending raises a number of questions. So they've gone back in time to before her parents died. So does that mean Strickland's still there?
No, I didn't think so.
And if Strickland's still there, then does he then disappear in about 3 weeks' time when He-Man reappears because all this stuff's happening?
Stop this. You're doing Terminator logic and I hate it. It fucks with your brain. Don't try to. It's
yeah.
just imagine like a multiverse. She's just gone back to another point in time.
Okay, great.
He's in another point in time.
Yep, lovely. Yeah. Multiverse explains away all of this.
It explains everything. Explains everything.
Yep, lovely.
So there we go.
Oh, I love the fact. Oh, you missed evil-lyn, Beastman, and
they just clear off. They
clear off well before the end. They're like, nah, I don't like the way this is going. We'll go.
Yeah, I've read that she was annoyed that Skeletor didn't share his power. I was like, no, I think she was just like, we're gonna die. Let's just get out of here. But
Blade,
also,
what's the Blade?
No, I think they're all there.
He doesn't go. No, Blade doesn't go with them. Blade disappears before the end.
Well, maybe He-Man killed him, or I don't know, accosted him or something. I don't know, whatever. But I think it makes sense because if they were going to make a sequel, that makes sense that Evil-lyn and the Henchmen sod off so they can come back in the sequel. So I'm like, okay, but there was no sequel. But there you go. So
but they planned one. They planned a sequel. One.
They did without Jean-Claude Van Damme, same thing. Without Dolph Lundgren, with a surfer called Lade, something or other.
Yep. It would have had a budget of $4.5 million. In comparison to this is 22 million. And the plot, as I understand it from what I've read, was that Skeletor would return, come to Earth, take over the body of a businessman, and try to take over Earth. He-Man would then come to Earth and have to hide himself as a college football quarterback in disguise.
It's just dreadful, isn't it? I'm so glad it cancelled because this bombed at the box office. So Canon pulled the plug on it, and all the costumes and set went to that shitty Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg, which I've never seen, and I don't think I want to. No,
so this had a budget of 22 million and only came in at 17 million globally.
That's one of your trivia questions, Smith. You've just spoiled it.
I'm just doing it now.
Yeah, screw it.
Yeah, I'm just doing it now. Care to guess what number film it was of the year?
Oh, we ain't got to the trivia point yet, but we'll do that a bit later. Okay. But I'm going to imagine it was very low, but we'll come back. Cool. So that was Master of the Universe. So when you watched it at Friend's house years ago on a video, what did you love about it? Or not love about it?
Well, I think when I watched it, I was probably too young to not love anything. I wasn't, a lot of these films we like because we didn't have the critical faculties to assess them objectively.
Correct.
So what I like the fact that it was He-Man. I like the action. I thought Skeletor was cool because I always thought Skeletor was cool. I enjoyed the fact that it appeared to be a sequel to Back to the Future.
Yes, and Star Wars.
Yeah. Strickland was in it. I enjoyed the villains. That's why I had a toy of Sorod. Yeah, um, yeah, I think that was about. I mean, generally it was just the fact that it was a He-Man film. I think when I was a kid, a He-Man film had action. It was colourful. It was silly.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it as a child. How about you?
Same. Yeah, I loved the fact it was a He-Man movie. Always thought Skeletor was cool. Was disappointed he wasn't Prince Adam Maternia and there was no Cringer and no Orko. But as I got older, I just, understood why. It made sense. But yeah, I enjoyed it as a kid. I always thought it was fun. But now, what do you think? Did you love it now? Did you hate it now? Were you indifferent to it now?
Um,
What did you enjoy about it? What did you enjoy about
what
this
did
this
I
film?
enjoy about it? Frank Langella and Meg Foster
Yes.
are putting a right shift in. Everything with Skeletor and evil-lyn is enjoyable. All of their scenes, as much of a Star Wars ripoff as they are, Frank Langella is chewing the scenery like it's made out of cake, and it is a joy to watch the scenes. Everything with Courtney Cox and what's his name, Robert Duncan McNeil
Kevin.
as Kevin Corrigan, which is actually the name of an actor. It's quite confusing. Is awful.
Yes.
Courtney Cox obviously very early in her career, but is not up to the task of emoting half as much as she needs to, and he's terrible as well. They're all terrible. Strickland has walked in from a different film. He's enjoyable, but it's weird. And again, who are these characters? Who is Lubick? Why do I care about Lubick? I
Exactly.
want to see Manny Faces. I want to see Mossman. I want to see the characters that I enjoyed.
Yep.
I want to see Fisto.
Fisto and Ram
I
Man.
want to see Fisto and Ram Man. Damn it. It's a completely different film. But Dolph Lundgren looks the part. That's it.
Yep.
Every time he opens his mouth, it completely undoes any goodwill because he can't act. He looks the bit where he's doing that cardboard cutout of him flying around. The bit where they're
Mm,
the close-ups of him, he looks so unsteady and unsure of what he's doing. They
exactly.
clearly just got him on the back of a truck and he doesn't like it. Um, Man at Arms, fine, but
Mm.
who the hell is he? Like I looked him up. He's a random actor who's done virtually nothing apart from that. There's no name value to any of these people.
It's because he looked
Uh,
like him. He got casted because he looks like Man at Arms.
he
That's
looks
the only
like
reason.
someone's granddad. You should have whacked a moustache on Arn Anderson and popped him in.
Maybe.
That would have been better. Yeah, the action is terrible. Generally, the sword fights are awful because they're all done in close up because they have to be.
Mhm.
It's the thing that this film is, which is annoying. Watching it now is outside of the bit with Skeletor and Evil-lyn, it's boring.
I didn't find it boring. I found it
Oh
really entertaining all the way through.
no, it was just paint by numbers 80s film.
Yeah,
Could have
it
been
is.
it could have been anything.
It's a typical 80s action adventure movie with He-Man characters thrown in. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's a low budget, typical
Yeah.
80s action movie thrown in with He-Man characters thrown in. All right, what did you think? What did you like? What did you dislike?
Skeletor, obviously. Evil-lyn, obviously. I think with the budget they had, they made some stuff work, like the special effects.
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
give you that. Makeup's good.
Makeup's very, very good. The set pieces are good. Yeah, and the fact it was just a He-Man movie, like there is for me, with all the faults there are of this movie, and there are many, many faults, it
Oh,
still has a
many.
sense of charm. I still left this movie with a smile on my face, like that was fun. I enjoyed that. It wasn't like after Hollow Man, I need to go take a shower. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
for all of its faults, I was like, I still enjoyed it. So
I mean, I'll give you that. It's not a hateful experience.
no,
It's fairly for me on a par with the Turtles. Actually, it's that
yes,
same kind of feel
hmm
of it's more frustrating because this could have been good with
yeah,
enough effort with a different production studio who weren't looking to cut costs everywhere they could,
exactly.
with some proper sort of actors in some of the key roles. I think you probably would have had a slightly better time of it with a little less deference to the films that have come before.
hmm
I think as well. Yeah, it's frustrating. It is, but it's got good bits.
Yeah, dialogue especially. Well,
It,
Frank Langella's dialogue.
it feels small. It feels very small. It's
Yeah.
got 3 or 4 sets that it keeps going back to.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like a $22 million movie.
No,
It
it doesn't.
feels like you can't see all of that money up on screen,
No.
and I don't know where it went. And I can only assume it went to Mattel. Actually, part of the reason why, just randomly, the sequel didn't get off is because they couldn't afford to pay Mattel the rights to use the characters
No.
anymore.
No, exactly. But there you go. We can only dream one day that, a better studio would take it over with a better budget and we'll
Well,
get the He-Man movie we always deserved.
David S. Goyer was working on a live action one from 2021, but it got cancelled.
Wow.
But they've done, I think it was called He-Man Revelations, which is on Netflix, which is the animated series.
Yeah, I need to give that a go. I've heard good things.
Apparently, it's quite good.
Yeah.
It's quite divisive. Some people love it, some people really don't like it.
And the other thing I forgot to mention, there is actually another He-Man movie. It's an animated movie which introduces She-Ra. It's a 90-minute film, cartoon, and it gives you a bit of backstory about He-Man and She-Ra, and that preceded this movie. That's actually pretty good. So yeah,
maybe give that a go. I haven't seen that.
Fun. It's fun. Cool. All right. So we've talked about this to death. We've talked about what we loved about it, hated it then and now. Now it's time to move to Smith Trivia.
Well, I've used all my Smith Trivia, so there isn't any Smith Trivia. I've used it all throughout this. Let me see. Let me think. Okay, so there's the question.
Where was it?
Where in the list of films released in 1987? And this is total global box office, all films released in 1987, so not just within 1987. Where do you think it came?
Oh, Jesus, like 90, something like that.
Not that bad. It was 65.
That's not too bad. You consider all the high caliber movies in 1987, and it was only 65. I mean,
I've rattled off some of them already, but I can rattle off a couple that it beat.
Go on.
Hellraiser.
Oh, yeah, but small art house horror film. I get that.
Angel Heart. Prince of Darkness.
Okay.
Evil Dead 2. And tying it back together in a nice little circle for canon, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So, here is a bit of trivia that you might like, given your dumpy Spider-Man that sat behind you up on that shelf. Canon owned the rights to Spider-Man back in the 1980s, and they were determined to get a Spider-Man movie off the ground. But rather than have a mid-range budget Spider-Man film, they decided that they were going to invest their money, that they were going to use that into two films, He-Man, Master of the Universe, and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. They would then use the guaranteed global box office from those to make a bigger budget Spider-Man movie. Both of those movies failed. Spider-Man did not get made. And do you know who they had precast as Green Goblin in their Spider-Man film?
I do not.
Dolph Lundgren.
Wow. Well, at least he would have had a mask on, hopefully, and not said much.
Yeah, so they were intending to have Dolph Lundgren play the Green Goblin. They never got the Spider-Man film off the ground, and due to the big box office failures of these films and others, Canon went out of business in the early 90s.
And it was probably for the greater good because they made some horrendous movies.
This
is probably the best of all of them.
They did. They kept on producing. One of the Menachem Golem kept producing until the early 2000s when he died. His last film was a Jewish comedy film called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay.
I don't even know what to do with that, Smith.
But no, neither do I. I know I'm not going to watch it. That's what I'm not going to do.
No, let's pretend this film doesn't exist. Cool. Right. So we've talked about this to death. So the final question, does it hold up?
Oh, it's difficult. Is it so bad it's good? Oh, I'm going to keep being the negative one. No, it doesn't.
That's a shame.
It doesn't. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't. There's too much bad stuff in it. It's just boring.
Okay.
And well, I will ask then the same question to you, Stu. Does it hold up?
Yes. It does. For me, it's just got just enough charm and nostalgia and fun about it to make me. It's one of those ones. Would I watch it again? Yes, I would. So, whereas you, I think you're probably like, nah, I'm done now. I don't want to watch this again.
I'd watch it again with other people and a few beers.
Bad movie night.
Yeah, bad movie night stuff, but I wouldn't sit down to legitimately watch it as a decent film, nor would I look forward to introducing it to another generation of filmgoers.
We'll see. I might show it to my kids. We'll see.
Wow.
Right. So, it is now your turn to nominate next episode's choice. So, I really hope you're not going to make a faux pas or choose something like Hollow Man. I hope you've really thought long and hard and you're going to choose something decent. So, what are you going to choose?
I am going to go to a film that I haven't seen in a very, very long time. I am going to go to Flight of the Navigator.
Oh my God, that was going to be one of my choices for you. Excellent choice. Brilliant. I look forward to watching that again. It's been probably a year.
I have not seen it since I was I have not seen it since I was about 6, and I'm not gonna
Fantastic.
lie, I did enjoy it then. So
Well, we shall see. I will probably thoroughly enjoy it again, but we'll see. We'll see. Cool. Right. Any closing thoughts about Master of the Universe, or are you done?
no, I'm done. No more thoughts.
No more thoughts. All right. Well, in which case, I'm going to plug our socials as I do always. So you can reach us on email at it doesn't hold up podcast at gmail.com. We're on Instagram at it doesn't hold up podcast. We're on Twitter at doesn't hold up pod. YouTube, it doesn't hold up podcast. And we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all good places you enjoy podcasts. So this has been a lot of fun, Smith. Thank you for discussing this film with me and having a
You're
put up
very
with it
welcome.
again.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for tuning in with us to, enjoy another episode of the It Doesn't Hold Up podcast. And we will be back next episode to discuss Fly the Navigator. And I'm very much looking forward to that. But before we go, I just want to say to all of you, good journey.